You don't need some $1,000 mirrorless or DSLR photography style camera plugged into a $100 cam link to get cornea popping performance. I'm going to show you guys how to use any parts bin special $25 Amazon generic Chinese webcam you have laying around. Make that sucker look good for streaming, Zoom chatting, or whatever nasty stuff you guys do with a webcam. Let's get it. So the two keys to making any webcam look good is flattering angles and lighting, i.e. the lighting of your room, whether that's natural lighting through a window, whether that's artificial lighting like a key light, a lamp, flashlight under your chin like you're telling scary tales around a campfire. Just kidding, probably don't do that one. And then also manually adjusting some settings inside the webcam so it can actually absorb more light onto the sensor, as they are very, very small on these webcams and not very high quality in comparison to something like a mirrorless or DSLR photography style camera, or even a GoPro or a cell phone for that matter. That's why a lot of streamers are starting to make the transition over to using cell phones, GoPros, or any other action cam brand, and then also adapting mirrorless and DSLR cameras. However, all of those options are substantially more expensive, and you can actually get a pretty doggone good picture. You can actually get a pretty doggone good 1080p 60 feed from a webcam such as the Logitech C90, or again, like I mentioned, even a cheap generic version that you'll find on Amazon for like 20 bucks. So natural lighting is fantastic to have. Crack a window, get the sunlight glazing upon your skin, get your daily dose of vitamin D and whatnot. However, there are some issues with that. Most people that stream have a full-time job or go to school, so when they get home, it's dark out before they start their stream. Or a lot of people stream out of a room in their attic or their basement where they don't have lights near their stream setup, or even windows, period. So are these guys just SOL, saddled loser, or shit out of luck? No, they're not. We're going to take care of them in this video. We're going to take care of everybody. Everyone's going to leave this video satisfied. So let's take away my natural light. I'm going to go ahead and close this window, these blinds here. Okay, going to go ahead and turn off my key light as well. All right, still getting a little bit of sunlight through that window because I don't have blinds or drapes over them, but I do have wooden shutters that are closed right now, but there's still a little bit of light bleed through there. Now let's go ahead and revert my webcam to its default out-of-the-box settings and see what that looks like. All right, not the best. As you can see, when I turned everything back to its default modes, there's a lot of auto modes where it's trying to compensate for the low light of the room, but it's not doing a very good job. But even with these default settings, let's go ahead and crack on my key light. Okay, let it auto adjust for a minute. Let's crack on my ring light over there. Okay, a little overexposed. Let's turn him down. Let's turn him down a couple of skoches. Doesn't look fantastic because one, we're back on the default settings, which we're going to change in just a minute. I'm going to show you guys how to do that. And also, my background is completely crisp, clear, and in focus because the webcam is basically putting everything into focus. It's not prioritizing me or anything like that because this obviously doesn't have some kind of a kit lens on there or anything. It's basically going to give you that depth of field. It basically blurs the background and makes you the center focus, which gives a real nice cinematic look. But that's totally fine. I'm going to show you guys the free software program that I use and I've been using for a long time that is not very resource intensive on your PC if you're going to be streaming or YouTube. If you're going to be streaming or screen recording gameplay for YouTube, it won't tax your resources, your GPU and CPU very much, but it will blur your background and make it look quite nice. All right, so here we are over here on my dashboard in Streamlabs OBS. These settings will be the same inside of OBS, XSplit Broadcaster, Twitch Broadcast, any broadcasting software that you might be using. So we have our webcam right over here. I do have it linked up in a folder here with my webcam frame or overlay as well. A little animated overlay with some bubbles fizzing around my face and whatnot. You can see if I hide that here, but we're going to click on the live cam here and you're going to be able to select your video device. Now this is the software that blurs my background. It's off right now, but it's called Nvidia Broadcast. I'm going to do a quick tutorial with that at the end of the video just to give you a little pizzazz, a little pop. But this is my USB live camera. Look, it doesn't even have a name. It's just called USB live camera. That's how cheap and generic this thing is. Go over here to configure video. This is going to pop up in your Windows 10 settings. Brightness over here is basically just using the software onboard Windows 10. Don't even have to have any software, any other software third-party plugins or programs or anything. This is just Windows 10 here. But this is just software enabling it to basically brighten up or darken up the image, just like the sliders on your cell phone do when you're editing a photo. And you cannot click it to auto. Some more expensive webcams will allow you to have auto brightness control. However, a lot of these cheap webcams will not. Now, contrast is basically the difference between the brights and the lights and how they blend together. I would play with this ever so slightly. The default for mine is at 38, which I do like for this particular webcam. You can mess around with it, but I wouldn't go to any extremes. I personally am going to leave this at 38. Now, color hue, you definitely want to leave this on its default value, which for my webcam is 3, because as you see, I look like the Hulk now, a really not swole, scrawny Hulk. And then you come over here, I look like somebody just choked the ever-living life out of me and I'm turning purple. Basically, this is just adjusting the RGB or red, green, blue spectrum. You want to leave that at default. Now, saturation, I do recommend you boys whip it out and play with it a little bit, because saturation can actually make your image look pretty darn good. What this is doing, if you see there's 0 saturation, it's going to be a black and white or noir style image. If you go to 128, you look like a Fortnite character. So the default for this camera is at 56. I do bump it up to about 65, and that gives a little bit more vibrance, a little more color pop, as you see in my background. All those colorful decorations I have pop a little bit more. My tattoos look a little bit more vibrant. My shirt looks a little more colorful. My lips look like something you'd like to lay a little smooch on. Now, sharpness over here, I am going to max that out on my webcam. You can do, not every webcam is the same, but for mine, I max this out. By default, it is at 5. I'll give you the full screen cam again. So this is with sharpness at 0, and this is at 6. 0, see how it's kind of blurry? None of the edges, you're actually kind of blending in with your chair and your background. You don't look like there's any depth to you. Now let's pop it back up to 6. I look like a human being again. That looks good. The default gamma is at 113 for this webcam. As you see, the higher you get on the slider, what happens is everything gets very whitewashed and overexposed. And if you come down here, everything looks kind of dull or kind of dim. And if I do compensate with my lights, it just gets really noisy, where it looks very pixelated and very low resolution. So we're going to go back up to the 113 range. And if you can't get it to the exact value that you want by dragging the slider, left, right, up, and down on your keyboard will also adjust this to the exact number that you want. Now, white balance is incredibly important, guys. As you see, by default, it is on auto. Look what happens when I turn it off. Everything looks very orangey. I kind of look like I'm a Jersey Shore character. And if you mess with this, you can see you can get very warm. Now, as you see, I can get very warm, kind of that rich vanilla tone. And that is higher in the Kelvin scale. And then if you go down here lower, that is that blue, white, crispy light when it is low in the Kelvin scale. So the only time I would recommend that you guys mess with this is if you're trying to color match your lighting. Now, I, for example, have 2 Elgato lights on me. I have a key light mounted to my desk, which shines from this end, and then I have a ring light over there. Don't worry about this. This is just like effect lighting in the background stuff. But as you can see, they have a slider here that actually shows me what Kelvin I'm in. So if I turn my key light air up a little bit, as you can see, my light is making a huge difference. Warm, cool. I generally like it around 4,700 Kelvin. So if you want to color match your lights, you see, okay, 4,600 here. Then you come over here, bring it to around the 4,600 range. However, in my experience, you're gonna want to color match your lights and then go down about 500. And to me, that seems the most natural. However, play with this because everyone's skin tone is a little bit different. Everyone has, different flaws, maybe some pimples or bags under the eyes. I got that one hard. That you might want to try and filter out a little bit by playing around with your white balance. But with a lot of these webcams, auto actually works pretty doggone good. And if it does, that's great, because if you change your lights at all, like you saw me messing around with my light, it'll automatically detect that and try and counteract it, which is really nice. Now, backlight comp, I would just leave this at the default value of 1. Same thing with gain here. As you see, that's basically a negative image right there. And then right here, it's just greatly overexposed, kind of like a Polaroid that hadn't been treated right. So I'm going to leave that right there in the default of 50. Power line, aka anti-flicker. Now, this isn't just your refresh rate of your webcam. A lot of webcams, like this is a 1080-60, and it has modes for 30 frames per second and stuff like that. But this is actually for not just that, but also, like it says, anti-flicker here. A lot of times when you have a screen or a monitor behind you, or even effect lights, like I have that scented oil diffuser back there, and they're not on right now. Let's turn those on, but bam, I have lights. I have lights behind my desk over there, and granted, these lights don't flicker at all through any camera because they're specifically from Elgato and they're for streamers to be recorded. But like most of those cheap generic LED RGB strips you're gonna get on Amazon for like a 12-foot roll for like $20. those will flicker in your camera, which is very disorienting and takes away from the immersion and beauty of your stream. So this right here will help with that, setting it to a higher value, which here is a default of 60. Now, if you messed up any of these settings, you can just click default right here and it'll default everything back to standard values. But again, all we really did was saturation, bumped it up to about 65, sharpness, put it at 6, hit apply, and then over here in camera control. So this doesn't have any zoom. As you see, it's blacked out. I can't press auto or anything like that. If you do have a webcam that supports software zoom, you can zoom in, but keep in mind, it's not zooming in with hardware, it's software, which means it's just cropping in the image. So you're gonna get a lot more background noise where it looks just that, noisy. It looks like there's a lot of like film grain on there, and everything just doesn't look very crisp and pretty and vibrant and accurate. Now, focus over here, 9 out of 10 times, I would leave this on auto, because generally when you're streaming, you're not really moving around too much. And also if you do, you know, show the camera something or whatever, as you can see, it's focusing on my iPhone now. And now it's back on my face. So a lot of these cheap cameras actually have a pretty good auto focus. However, if you're out of focus, your autofocus is struggling to get you in the picture to focus on your face, then I would uncheck this, and what you want to do is go all the way up to the top, to the highest value, and then slowly taper back. Now, I don't know if the microphone is picking it up. Okay, right there is pretty good. So we'd be at about 212 if I was going to use manual, but we're going to go back to auto. Now, I don't know if you could pick it up over the camera, but my webcam was making a pretty loud clicking noise when I was manually adjusting that slider for focus. And this isn't just webcams. A lot of photography style and videography style cameras, like mirrorless and DSLR cameras, also have a very noisy focus and autofocus mode. That's why you want to make sure when you are shopping for a mirrorless or DSLR that you want to use for streaming, that it does have a very, very quiet autofocus, which I am going to do a separate buyer's guide going over cameras like, for example, the Sony a5100 and the Canon M200. Same thing with exposure over here. I would leave this on auto. As you see, when I uncheck it, it gets very, very dark, and you can adjust this manually, but look at the, we gotta uncheck that. Look at the amount of adjustment that you get for each step. As you see, it's not very linear. Like that's 8, that's 7, that's a huge, that's 7, that's a huge difference. That's 6, big difference. 5's a huge difference. It's not like a very smooth slider where you can fine tune and pinpoint. I guess -6 kind of looks okay, but turning it auto, it'll automatically select the best one for you. And then roll, don't worry about that. Now, low light compensation, I would leave this on. In every webcam that I have tested, this does not kick on or do anything intrusive. It doesn't change the way your webcam looks until you are indeed in a low light situation, and it'll try and adjust autofocus, and it'll try and adjust things like exposure on the fly to basically make your webcam not look like a hot, sticky mess. Keep in mind, no matter how good the webcam is, it's still a webcam. It's not going to look great because webcams traditionally do not have very good low light performance. That's one of their huge downsides. They're cheap, but for a reason. They don't have the sensors. Oh yeah, and then on these options right here, I think in some of my previous tutorials, I was saying to change this to 709 on color space and color range full, and I was doing that for a long time. I didn't see any negative effects or anything like that. However, I've been watching a lot of tutorials here recently on photography and videography for streaming, and apparently changing this can actually cause some detriment when using a DSLR mirrorless camera when it goes to basically export your screen recording or basically encode your stream. So we'll just leave this at the default, which is 601 partial, and hit done. Now the program that I blur my background with is called Nvidia Broadcast. We'll pop that up right here. All right, so the program that I use to blur my background is called Nvidia Broadcast. It is this software program right here. It's just a little pop-out window. You can't full screen it or anything like that. It is free software. Just type in Nvidia Broadcast. The first link will take you to the download page. And this is designed to work in conjunction with Nvidia graphics cards. I do not believe it works with AMD graphics cards. I think you have to actually have an Nvidia graphics card, as it handles the webcam encoding with the NVENC or Nvidia encoder. Got a little water there. I just spritzed my hair down. I apologize. It's not dribble. I wasn't drooling because our camera looks as good as it does. So I guess this is a 30 frames, not a 60 frames per second, 1080p. Now, if we click on this button right here, bam, we're going to get those settings that we already messed with. As you see, it saved everything. 65, that saturation. We also messed with the white balance on auto. Sharpness, we cranked that up to 6. Yes, we sure did. Now, the effect right here that I use is called background blur. And as you see, if we turn it off, I'm going to make it full screen so you can see what I am talking about. Now, as you see right now, my background's completely crispy. You can see my VR headset back there, my little action figures, the decorations on my wall. Now, this is just the lowest setting of background blur, which is what I keep it on. Really nice cinematic look. It basically makes you the focus. It almost simulates that you're using a DSLR mirrorless where you're getting that depth of field. Looks really good. Now, you can get really aggressive with this and blur the ever-living shit out of your background, but that does not look natural at all. Like, I don't know of any glass kits, any lenses that really perform like that. So we're just going to leave it like that. So off, on, nice. But you can also replace your background, basically a green screen, which is awesome. And right now this is just the default one, but you can put any image you want back there, which is super, super cool. You don't need a physical green screen behind you, which, don't get me wrong, having a physical green screen and chroma keying it out will give you the best results, but it's a hassle to set up and it takes a lot of technical know-how. Okay, cool. Now I'm doing a vlog about Cyberpunk. Yep, it still sucks. The updates made it worse, actually. Now you also have background removal right here. That looks kind of weird because I have my border around me, but if we get rid of that border and let's drag me down there. Now I'm at the bottom of the screen, I can commentate like this. Now, lighting is a video in its own, but there are several different techniques. The most popular and most effective is called a 3-light setup, where you have a key light, a fill light, and a hair light, which basically illuminates your backdrop to make you pop or stand out from your background, and also kind of shines a little bit of light through your hair to where it creates almost like a silhouette around you. It looks very angelic, very sweet. I am going to do a separate video on that, as that literally is like a 15-minute video in its own, because there's several different techniques. Like I said, 3-light is the best, but not everyone has 3 lights. But I'm going to show you how you can utilize like a window in your room, or even like the overhead ceiling light in your room, like your fan light, as the hair light. But as for now, we've got our webcam settings looking good. We got our background blurred, and that right there is enough to have a quality looking stream where nobody's going to complain in your chat about, oh my god, dude, you look like a hot bag of trash on the side of the highway that some guy in an orange jumpsuit's scraping up. Nobody's gonna say that to you. In fact, people are gonna be like, wow, you look really good. Your colors are very vibranty and popping, and you look quite sensual on the camera. If you guys have any questions, drop them in the comment section below and I will get back to you as soon as humanly possible. Subscribe for more content like this. I do a lot of tutorials helping you get set up streaming and YouTubing. And if you enjoyed the video, it was beneficial and it helped you get set up with that old janky webcam you found in the bottom of your mom's toy chest, smashing that like button, obliterating it, giving it the Dutch rudder helps the video to get seen by more people, which in turn will help me grow my little channel, which I do greatly, greatly appreciate. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace. Looking fine.